أنا دكتور خالد وليد، ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be exploring paradise, but not the kind you might expect. We had an excerpt from What is Really Your Paradise? And it has some really thought-provoking ideas about finding paradise right here on Earth.
Interesting.
Now, this piece also connects earthly paradise to a much larger, multi-layered cosmos. And to help us make sense of all this, we've got our expert here.
Happy to be here.
So the text lays out these three instructions, I guess you could call them, for understanding existence, understanding ourselves, exploring our planet, and contemplating religious scripture, specifically the Quran. It's interesting how the author emphasizes active engagement rather than just taking things, at face value.
Yeah.
So what I found intriguing is how these instructions, while seemingly diverse, all point towards the same goal. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I see what you mean. The common thread that runs through all three is this emphasis on observation and reflection. Like the author is saying, look closely at yourself, at the world around you, and at the wisdom contained in Scripture. Through that close observation, that's how you'll start to understand the deeper truths of existence.
Yeah.
Both the physical and the unseen.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads us to the next point the text makes, that relationship between the material and the immaterial.
Yeah.
It argues that combining these three perspectives, self, earth, Scripture, allows us to grasp not just our physical world, but also the unseen, the cosmos. It's almost like a journey from the tangible to the intangible. Do we see similar ideas in other traditions?
Absolutely. Yeah. This idea of bridging the gap between the seen and unseen, the material and immaterial, is a constant throughout human history, really. Different cultures have tried to make sense of this connection in different ways.
Yeah.
The author's approach is unique in how it ties together personal understanding, exploration of the natural world, and religious contemplation.
So it's not about rejecting the material world, but seeing it as a gateway to something more.
Exactly. And this is where the author makes a pretty bold claim that paradise is actually found right here on Earth.
Okay.
The text paints this really vivid picture of earthly pleasures, mountains, beautiful companions, rivers flowing with wine and honey, luxurious furnishings,
wow,
and most importantly, righteous companions.
The imagery of rivers of wine, that's pretty striking. Do you think the author meant this literally? Or is there a deeper symbolic meaning there?
That's a great question. It really highlights the challenge of interpreting religious and philosophical texts.
Yeah.
The language and imagery certainly suggest a level of symbolism. It's important to remember that paradise is often described in ways that resonate with the cultural and historical context of the time.
I see.
So, for example, rivers of wine and honey might represent abundance, joy, and fulfillment rather than literal alcoholic beverages.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the beautiful companions? This is another image that just immediately jumps out.
Right. Indeed. The concept of Panulan, often translated as beautiful companions, is complex and has been interpreted in various ways.
Okay.
Some interpretations focus on the physical aspects, while others emphasize their spiritual and intellectual qualities. However, the author seems to be suggesting that true companionship, based on shared values and a love for God, is a core element of paradise, both on Earth and beyond.
That's interesting. But some interpretations do focus heavily on those physical aspects, which has led to controversy.
Mm-hmm.
How does the author, how do they navigate this potentially problematic aspect?
Well, the author emphasizes the righteousness of these companions, highlighting their spiritual essence rather than purely physical attributes.
Okay.
This aligns with that broader theme of connecting the material with the immaterial, even within the concept of companionship.
Yeah, I see how that ties in. So we're seeing how the author is intertwining the earthly and the divine.
Yeah.
But then the text takes it a step further, introducing this concept of 7 heavens. Each heaven contains multiple earths like our own, inhabited by beings like us. It paints this picture of this vast interconnected cosmos where similar stories of life choices and consequences play out. It's almost like an echo of our own existence across the universe.
This concept of multiple worlds or universes isn't new, though. We find similar ideas in ancient Greek philosophy, Jewish Kabbalah, and even in modern physics with the concept of the multiverse.
It's fascinating how the author draws on both ancient traditions and modern ideas to support this multi-layered cosmos. What I'm curious about is the text cites Quranic verses to support this concept of 7 heavens and multiple earths. How do those verses lend themselves to this particular interpretation?
Yeah, the interpretation of religious texts is always open to debate.
Right.
However, the author uses these verses to highlight the vastness and interconnectedness of creation, as described in the Quran, suggesting that our Earth may not be the only one, and our story may not be the only one unfolding.
So are we just one small story in a much grander cosmic narrative?
It certainly makes you think, doesn't it?
It really shifts our perspective, if that's the case.
It certainly does. It challenges us to think beyond our own limited experience and consider the possibility of other beings on other Earths, making their own choices and facing their own challenges. And that brings us to another key idea in the text. The author specifically identifies Jerusalem as the central capital of our Earth.
Okay.
And it's connected to the 7 heavens through a point of intense spiritual energy. This connection is likened to the spiritual significance of the Dome of the Rock.
Now, Jerusalem holds a special place in the hearts of many faiths. Does this idea of a central capital with a cosmic connection resonate with other traditions that assign spiritual importance to specific locations?
Many traditions identify specific places as points of convergence between the earthly and the divine. Think of sacred mountains like Mount Olympus in Greek mythology, Mount Kailash in Hinduism, or the Kaaba in Islam.
Yeah.
What's unique here is how the author links this concept to a multi-layered cosmos, suggesting that Jerusalem isn't just a holy city on Earth, but a central hub within a much grander scheme. It's like our Earth is plugged into this vast cosmic network through this one special location.
It's a pretty powerful image. But if Jerusalem is the capital of our Earth, what does that mean for the countless other Earths the author describes? Is there like a hierarchy within this multi-layered cosmos, or some Earths or some heavens, more important than others?
That's a question the text doesn't explicitly address.
Yeah.
It's possible the author's using the term capital to convey a sense of centrality and connection without implying a rigid hierarchy, but it certainly invites further exploration, and it brings up another important point. The author's rejection of the notion of a chosen people.
This part really struck me. The text argues that all beings are subject to the same divine laws and judgment, criticizing the idea of one group ascending to paradise while others are condemned. It's a pretty bold statement, especially considering the text's grounding in Islamic thought.
This is a significant departure from traditional interpretations of many religious texts, which often emphasize the exclusivity of certain groups or beliefs. The author seems to be suggesting a more inclusive and universal path to paradise, one based on righteous actions and a connection with the divine, regardless of one's specific religious affiliation.
It's like the author is saying that everyone has the potential to experience paradise, regardless of their beliefs or background. And that leads us to another fascinating concept. The Arabic word daba.
Yes, daba. Often translated as beast or creature, but the author pushes for a much broader understanding.
The author suggests daba symbolizes all life forms, like pulsating with divine energy, hinting at the possibility of diverse intelligent life throughout the cosmos. This interpretation opens up some, really intriguing possibilities, doesn't it?
It certainly challenges our understanding of the scope of creation and potentially expands it beyond anything we could have imagined.
This idea of daba really makes those multiple Earths we were talking about seem less like science fiction and more like a real possibility.
It certainly adds another layer to the author's vision of a vast and interconnected cosmos teeming with life. And it raises some profound questions about humanity's place within this grand tapestry of creation.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, and I had to say I'm already feeling the need to pause and process all of this. So we left off talking about daba, this idea that all life forms, not just humans, are pulsating with this divine energy. It really expands our understanding of what creation could encompass, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. So if all life is connected in this way, how does that change the way we view our responsibility toward other life forms?
That's a really important question. The text doesn't specifically address, things like environmentalism or animal rights, but this concept of daba certainly suggests a much deeper and broader sense of responsibility. It's not just about humans taking care of each other. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all life and acting accordingly.
So it's about seeing ourselves as part of this delicate web rather than at the top of some hierarchy.
Exactly. And that has implications for everything, from how we treat animals to how we interact with the environment. If we believe that all life forms share this divine spark, well, then our actions should reflect that belief.
It makes me think about like the growing awareness of our impact on the planet.
Yeah.
The author doesn't explicitly talk about environmental issues, but this concept of daba seems to fit right in with that movement, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The idea that all life is sacred and interconnected resonates deeply with environmentalism and the push for sustainability. It's about recognizing that we're not separate from nature, we're a part of it, and our actions have consequences for the entire web of life.
It's like the author saying, hey, this planet isn't just ours to exploit, right? We share it with countless other beings, and we have a responsibility to care for it.
It's a powerful message, and it raises all sorts of questions about how we can live in a way that honors this interconnectedness. You know, it's not just about grand gestures, it's about the choices we make every day. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the way we travel, it all has an impact.
So daba isn't just like a philosophical concept. It's a call to action.
I think so. It's a reminder that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the entire web of life. And that includes potential extraterrestrial life.
That's right. If daba encompasses all life forms pulsating with divine energy, who's to say that life is limited to just Earth? This really takes the possibility of, extraterrestrial life to a whole new level.
The author's interpretation of daba certainly opens the door to some fascinating possibilities. It's a reminder that our understanding of the universe is constantly evolving. What we consider impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow.
And if we do encounter other intelligent life forms, how does this concept of daba inform the way we interact with them? Do we approach them with the same respect and reverence that we would any other life form?
It's an intriguing question to ponder. The author doesn't delve into the specifics of how we should interact with extraterrestrial life, but this concept of daba suggests a framework for ethical engagement. It encourages us to approach the unknown with humility and a recognition of our shared connection to something larger than ourselves.
This whole conversation has me thinking about how easily we can get caught up in like our own little bubble, It's easy to forget that there's a whole universe out there teeming with life and mystery. And that brings me back to the author's vision of paradise. It's not just about what happens after we die, it's about how we live our lives right here, right now.
Absolutely. The author seems to be suggesting that paradise isn't some far-off reward. It's a potential reality we can cultivate here on Earth. It's about aligning our actions with those divine principles of love, justice, and compassion.
And the principles apply to all living things, not just humans.
Right. Exactly. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all life forms. It's about acting with kindness, empathy, and a sense of responsibility for the well-being of all creation.
So paradise isn't just a destination, it's a way of being.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's about living in harmony with ourselves, with each other, and with the natural world. It's about striving to create a world that reflects the beauty and goodness of the divine order.
This is a pretty powerful message. It shifts the focus from what we might gain in some afterlife to, what we can create right here, right now. It gives us agency. But it also makes me wonder, if paradise is within our reach, how do we actually cultivate it? What are the practical steps?
That's the big question, isn't it? The text provides some clues. The author's 3 instructions for understanding existence, understanding ourselves, exploring our world, and contemplating scripture offer a roadmap for personal transformation.
It seems like those instructions take on a whole new meaning. When we consider this idea of paradise on earth, they're not just about gaining knowledge. They're about cultivating a way of being in the world.
Exactly. They're about connecting with our inner selves, expanding our understanding of the world around us, and seeking guidance from wisdom traditions. And through that process of self-discovery, exploration, and reflection, we can start to cultivate our own personal paradise, a state of inner peace and harmony that can, ripple outwards, impacting the world around us.
It sounds like cultivating paradise is an ongoing process, a journey, not a destination.
It's a lifelong pursuit, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. But the author's insights provide a framework for navigating that journey with intention and purpose.
We've talked a lot about big concepts, but I'm curious, what are some tangible examples of what cultivating paradise might look like in everyday life?
It could be as simple as practicing gratitude for the beauty around us, or as profound as dedicating ourselves to a cause that aligns with our values. It could be about making conscious choices that minimize our impact on the environment, or about extending compassion to those who are suffering.
So it's not necessarily about like grand gestures. It's about making small, intentional choices that reflect our commitment to, creating a better world.
Exactly. It's about weaving those principles of love, justice, and compassion into the fabric of our daily lives. It's about striving to be the change we want to see in the world.
This idea of paradise on earth is so empowering. It gives us a sense of agency and reminds us that we have the power to shape our own reality.
It's a message of hope and responsibility. It reminds us that we're not just passive observers, we're active participants in the unfolding story of creation, and our choices matter.
Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that really stood out to me in the text: the author's rejection of the notion of a chosen people. This idea seems like so crucial to their overall argument.
It's a bold statement, and it challenges traditional interpretations of many religious texts. The author seems to be proposing a more inclusive and universal path to paradise, one that's accessible to all beings, regardless of their beliefs or background.
It's like the author is saying that the divine spark that animates all life, that Daba, transcends any one religion or culture.
Exactly. It's a message of unity and equality, a reminder that we're all interconnected and that our shared humanity is more important than our differences.
And that interconnectedness extends beyond humanity to encompass all life forms, as we were talking about earlier. It's a truly expansive vision of creation.
It certainly challenges us to broaden our perspective and consider the possibility of a cosmic family far grander and more diverse than we might have imagined.
We've covered so much ground in this second part of our deep dive. From the implications of Daba to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, or the concept of paradise on Earth, to the author's rejection of the idea of a chosen people. It's a lot to take in.
It's a testament to the richness and complexity of the text. The author's ideas are interwoven in a way that invites, deep contemplation and reflection.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so compelling. We're not just summarizing information. We're engaging with big ideas that have the potential to transform the way we see ourselves and the world around us.
It's a privilege to explore these concepts with you and with our listeners. And it's exciting to think about where this conversation will lead us in the final part of our deep dive.
We've been unpacking this whole idea of paradise on Earth, not as some far-off reward, but as something we can actually cultivate right here, right now. It's a pretty empowering concept, but it also kind of begs the question, how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
Well, it's a journey, right? And like any journey, it helps to have some kind of map. And the author gives us a starting point with those 3 instructions we discussed: understanding ourselves, exploring our world, and contemplating scripture.
Right, but now those instructions feel less like, abstract concepts and more like a practical guide to actually building paradise. They're almost like the foundation stones.
Exactly. Each instruction is kind of an invitation to engage with life on a deeper level. Let's start with understanding ourselves. This isn't just about, knowing our likes and dislikes. It's a much deeper dive into our values, our beliefs, our motivations, even our, our shadows.
It's like that saying, the unexamined life is not worth living. But how does understanding ourselves actually connect to creating paradise?
Well, think of it this way. Inner peace is kind of like the seed of paradise. You can't cultivate outward harmony if you haven't addressed the turmoil within. Understanding our strengths and weaknesses, it allows us to act with greater intention and clarity, which is essential for, building a better world.
It's like we need to become aware of our own internal landscape before we can truly appreciate and care for the external one.
Yeah.
So self-awareness is the first step. But then there's this idea of exploring our world. What does that actually look like in the context of cultivating paradise?
It's about expanding our horizons in every sense. It could be traveling to new places, immersing ourselves in different cultures, or even just taking the time to, appreciate the natural beauty around us. The key is to cultivate a sense of wonder and curiosity about the world.
So it's not just about ticking off destinations on a bucket list. It's about truly experiencing the world with all our senses, engaging with it on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that engagement can take so many forms. It could be through art, music, literature, scientific discovery, anything that kind of sparks our curiosity and expands our understanding of the world and our place in it.
It's about realizing that we're part of something much larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And that brings us to that third instruction, contemplating scripture. Now, this one might seem a bit more specific to those who follow a particular faith. But how does it connect to this broader idea of cultivating paradise?
Well, even if we're not religious, engaging with texts that offer wisdom and ethical guidance can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
These could be philosophical works, poetry, even biographies of people who, lived exemplary lives. The key is to kind of expose ourselves to ideas that challenge our assumptions, that inspire us to be better, and that connect us to something beyond our immediate concerns.
It's about seeking out those universal truths that transcend time and culture. Those nuggets of wisdom that can help us, navigate the complexities of life and make choices that actually align with our values.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. The more we learn about ourselves, the more we explore our world, the more we grapple with these big questions of meaning and purpose, the better equipped we become to actually cultivate paradise, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
So it's not a one-time achievement. It's this lifelong practice of aligning our actions with those divine principles of love, justice, and compassion.
And it's a practice that can take many forms. It could be as simple as choosing to be kind to a stranger, or as challenging as speaking out against injustice. It could be about volunteering our time to a cause we believe in, or making conscious choices to reduce our environmental impact.
It sounds like cultivating paradise is about making those principles tangible in our everyday lives. It's about making choices that reflect those values, both in big ways and small.
Exactly. It's about weaving those threads of love, justice, and compassion into the very fabric of our daily lives. And it's a collective endeavor. We're all in this together.
This idea of collective effort brings to mind something we talked about earlier, the author's rejection of the notion of a chosen people. That seems so central to this whole idea of cultivating paradise on earth.
Absolutely. The author's vision is radically inclusive. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all beings, regardless of their beliefs, background, or even species.
So it's not about one group achieving paradise at the expense of others. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to flourish.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those barriers of separation and embracing our shared humanity. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that our actions have consequences for the entire web of life.
That's such a powerful message. It's a reminder that we're not just, isolated individuals, but rather part of a vast and intricate tapestry of creation. And the choices we make, both individually and collectively, have the power to shape that tapestry.
It's a call to action, an invitation to step into our role as co-creators of paradise. And it's a message that's desperately needed in the world today.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We've explored the author's unique interpretation of paradise, the concept of Daba, the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and the importance of, understanding ourselves, exploring our world, and contemplating scripture.
It's been quite a journey through these really profound ideas, and I hope it sparked some new insights and questions for our listeners.
This idea of paradise on earth isn't just some abstract concept. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have the power to create a world that reflects the beauty, harmony, and interconnectedness of the divine order.
It's a challenge to embrace our responsibility as stewards of creation and to make choices that actually align with our deepest values.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with this question. What small step can you take today to bring a little bit more paradise into your life and into the world around you?
It could be an act of kindness, a moment of reflection, a conscious choice to live in greater harmony with nature. Every small step matters.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep cultivating your own paradise.
أنا دكتور خالد وليد ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.